Wings of Fire, the Dragonet Prophecy. Chapter 5. It seemed like a long time later when Starflight finally slunk back into the main hall with Marcia close behind him. Clay couldn't tell whether Starflight had told Marcia the truth, that he didn't have any visions or read minds. He was just ordinary, like the rest of the Dragonets. But who would be brave enough to tell Marcia that? The enormous Nightwing slithered off to the Guardian's cave without a word to Sunny or Clay. Starflight glanced at them, then turned and headed for his sleeping cave. Clay hurried after him. "What happened?" he asked. What did he say to you?" "I'm not supposed to talk about it," Starflight said stiffly. He sat down in the middle of the cave, his wings askew behind him, then started poking through the scrolls on the floor. "It's over here," Clay said, nudging a fat scroll with silver letters that had rolled under his sleeping ledge. Starflight hooked it over with one talon, tucked it under a wing, and then carried it up to his ledge. He curled down with his tail draped. He curled up with his tail draped over his nose and started reading. "Wow," Clay said. "So it was that bad?" Tales of the Nightwings was Starflight's favorite scroll, and he always read it when he was upset or fighting with one of the other Dragonets. The tip of Starflight's tail twitched. "I have a lot to learn," he said. "But you already know everything," Clay said. You have to be the smartest Dragonet in all of Pyria. Couldn't you tell about that by reading your mind?" Starflight didn't answer. "I thought he liked you," Clay said. "Surely he said something about what a great and noble dragon you must be because you're a Nightwing." A long, tired breath whooshed out of Starflight's snout. "Yeah," he said. "That's exactly what he told me, actually." "Oh," Clay said. Well, that's good, isn't it? Did he say when you'll get your powers?" Starflight fidgeted with his scroll, shredding a corner of it between his claws. Clay had never seen him upset enough to damage a scroll without noticing. He wished he could say something helpful, but he couldn't think of a single useful thing to say about Nightwings. "Well, at least you're not a Rainwing," he tried. "Didn't Marcia say anything about glory?" Starflight frowned at him over the ledge of the rock. "Not much," he said. "Don't worry about that, Rainwing. I'll take care of it." Clay felt a cold chill climb up the stone floor and spread through his scales. "What does that mean? What is he going to do?" "How should I know?" Starflight poked his nose back into the scroll. "Maybe she'll get to go home. She's probably the luckiest of all of us." A pulse of fear pounded in Clay's head. Disagreed. He couldn't see the Guardians just releasing glory, not after years of secrecy. "We have to go spy on them," Clay said, jumping to his feet. "We have to know what they're planning." He stopped halfway out of the cave and stamped on foot in frustration. "Oh no, we can't. Marcia will know we're there." Right, Starfire said. He'll hear you thinking all your big, loud, worry thoughts. You don't know that my thoughts are loud and worried, Clay said. Maybe they're quiet and very serene. Starfire snorted with amusement. The first happy sound he'd made since Marcia showed up. Even through his worry, Clay was pleased. What are you doing? Sunny's anxious voice echoed across the main hall. What's that for? A heavy thread of dragon footsteps reached their ears. Along with the ominous clanking. Stop! Wait, you don't have to do that! There was an enormous splash. Clay raced into the big cave with Starfire close behind him. He skidded to a halt, horrified. Kestrel and Dune were standing by the riverbank, holding a length of iron chains between their talons. Behind him, Marcia was holding Sunny back with his tail, as the tiny gold dragon trying to climb over him. Webs emerged from the river, dragging a whistling, hissing ball of blue scales. Kestrel and Dune drew the chainsaw around Tsunami's neck and wrapped it around her legs. The three guardians held over her to one of the rocks. One of the rocks that stretched from floor to ceiling, high above. Dune flung the chains around column twice, binding Tsunami with barely 3 steps to move in any direction. Gesture took the 2 ends of the chain and blasted them with bolts of flame. The metal melted in a blobby mess, while welding together. Tsunami was trapped. Maybe sometimes away from the river will teach you to be grateful of what you have. Kestrel growled. It happened so fast. Clay didn't have time to figure out what was happening, let alone stop it, before it was too late. He yelled Odysseus and charged across the cabin. Let her go! He grabbed the chains and let go at once, hissing with pain at the searing heat. You'll regret this, Tsunami snarled. She clawed the chain. She crawled at the chain around her back legs, then pulling on it tightening. But pulling on it tightened the loop around her neck. With a hiss, she stopped struggling. When we're free, when my family hears about this, when the rest of the world finds out you treated the dragonets of destiny, all your big dreams of your wonderful family, Kestrel mocked her. They don't care about you. When it's time to fulfill the prophecy, you'll be alive. and the talons of peace will have you. And that's all that matters. Why are you doing this? Sunny cried. Tsunami is the good one. She's wonderful. If anyone can shake the world, it's her. Actually, Tiny Sandwing, Marcia rumbled, the dragon that you should believe in is Starflight over there. He nodded at Starflight, still rooted in place by the sleeping cave. Starflight ducked his head. Nightwings are natural leaders. You do what he says, and you'll be alright. Clay glanced at where Starflight and saw Glory standing in the archway of her own sleeping cave. Marcia narrowed her eyes at her. I'll be back tomorrow, he said to the Guardians, to make sure everything has been dealt with. You understand, Hishio said. Together she and Dune rolled the boulder aside. Marcy squeezed through in the gap and disappeared into the blackness without a backwards glance. This is for your own good, Webb said, stopping in front of Tsunami. She ranked her talons at him, and he stepped back. We only want to keep you safe. Maybe it's not the perfect way, but the Dragonets don't know what's best for them. Dune said, as the boulder slid back into place. You need us, whether you like it or not. You are all awful today, Hishio said. No dinner for any of you. Go to bed. And I don't want to hear a squeak out of anyone until morning. Really? What else are you going to do to me? Tsunami challenged her. What if I feel like singing all night? She started howling in her off-key voice. Oh, the Dragonets are coming. They're coming to save the day. They're coming to fight the illness like the Dragonets. Hooray! Your fault, Dune snarled at Webbs. I told you not to teach them that horrible ball song. Oh, the Dragonets are coming, Tsunami bellowed, even louder. We have more trains, Kestrel yelled at her. We could throw one around just now if you'd like me to force you to be quiet. Tsunami paused, glaring at her maliciously, then took another breath and opened her mouth. Or we could chain up one of your ears. Or we could chain up one of your friends, Kestrel said. Perhaps Clay would like to spend the night hanging from a stalactite, so you have some company out here. Clay stiffened uneasily on his feet, wondering if there was anywhere he could hide out of Kestrel's reach before she could grab him. Tsunami slapped her jaws shut and lay down with her head turned away from all the dragons. Her gills fluttering furiously, but she kept quiet. Much better, Kestrel said. She stomped off to She stomped off to her tunnel, her red scales flaring brightly like fires reflected. Webbs followed her with his wet tail, leaving dark trails behind him. Sonny pounced on his tail before he could go after them. "Please don't leave her like this," she said. I know you don't that mean." Dean shook her off. "We're doing what we have to do." He went after the others. As soon as they're gone, Clay tried tugging on the tsunami's chain again. They were hopelessly strong. "Clay, stop!" Tsunami whispered. You know what you have to do. Quickly." Clay shivered, dreading the cold water, but she was right. For the first time, staying on the Guardians were really important. He ran over to the river and dove in. Through the water, he could hear the muffled echo of Sonny's nervous squeaks as he swam along the current to the rock wall. Without Tsunami scolding the dark scales to guide him, it took him longer than usual to find a gap that led to the Guardian's cave. But he finally felt an open space under his claws, and he ducked and squeezed through. His heart was hammering in his chest as he popped into the cave. Slowly, he paddled to the surface and poked his ears out into the air. This wasn't the loud conflagration they heard the previous night. This time, the 3 big dragons were huddled around the fire, whispering. None of them glanced at the river as Clay floated closer. "When tomorrow?" Webb said. Casual leaned towards the fire, baking her scales an even brighter red. "He'll be back by midday. It has to be done by then." Her tail was coiled in a tight knot behind her. He doesn't want to see her again. Clay clenched his talons under the water. He had to be talking about glory. "Well, I'm not going to do it," Webb said. Dean shot him a withering look. No one thought you would. Even though this is all your fault," said Kestrel. "I still think we need 5 dragons," Webb snapped. "What is he going to do about that?" "He'll find us a Skywing," Kestrel said. "Probably this time. No colorful substitutes." "Well, All went quiet for a moment, staring into the fire. So how and when? Dune said, in his no-nonsense military voice. Drowning would be simplest. He glared at Webbs. I joined the talented piece to stop killing dragons, Webbs said. I won't argue with Marcia, but I won't do it myself. I'm not doing it myself. It has to be me, Kestrel said in a choked, tense voice. She's just arranging. But she might get away from you. She nodded at Dune's missing foot and the long scars that ran through his mangled wing. But can't we go through with it? Webbs asked. Isn't it too much like, we don't know what happened. That is totally different, Kestrel snapped. Glory's just arranging. I don't care about her. I don't even like her. She planted a fall of flame at the fire, so it blazed up. If you're sure, Webbs started. We'll do it tonight. While she's sleeping, Kestrel said. But especially with the busty one safely chained up. Tsunami's the only one who can stop me. A shudder of horror ran through Clay so viciously that he was afraid one of the big dragons would notice the waves underwater. He began paddling softly backwards, but froze when he heard his name. Not Clay, Dune said. He might try at least. He'll definitely try, Webbs said. Dumb as a rock, but he's devoted to the other four. It's not natural, that much loyalty in a dragon, Dune said. Especially to the dragons outside their own tribes. I can handle him, Kestrel said, even if he finally went mad like he wanted to. There's nothing he could do to stop me. Clay had heard enough. He sank down below the surface and swam towards the gap in the wall. What do we do? What can I do? What can we do? What can I do? There was no time. How do I save her?